What's up, you guys? Bubba Sawyer here, coming at you with a quick video. You might see a knife and a leather holster here, but before we get started showing it, I'm going to tell you guys something. You might not know this about my dad, but my dad used to make knives and sell them, and he'd give them as gifts. Okay, my dad made these knives because there's a local sawmill that when their machine blades get dull, they throw them away and get new ones. Well, my dad was real good buddies with the owner, and every time he'd get dull blades, he'd call my dad up, and my dad would come and get them. And my dad would take, it's not chalk, I forget what it's called, but it's a special stone. It looks like chalk that you can draw on metal with. And if you know what that is, put it in the comments, because I'd like to know. And my dad would deer hunt, and even when my dad didn't deer hunt, people would find antlers when they were out riding their ATVs and side-by-sides, and they'd bring them by and give them to my dad. Well, my dad made this knife. The holster, my dad would take mismatched stuff and make holsters. Sometimes he would go like to yard sales and stuff and get leather jackets and stuff. You know, that was like, say, a kid size. And my dad would cut it up and he'd take a hole punch and lace it through, see? And he'd make holsters. This holster needs repaired. It's came loose. But I'm leaving it as is because my dad built this. And when my dad worked in the mines, they were all the time working with pipe and different fittings. And sometimes they would have fittings that were bad that they couldn't use. And my dad would bring them home and throw them in his stash. And my dad would take a grinder, and I believe they call this the tang. I'm not sure, whatever this is called. But my dad would hand cut these out with a grinder and a wheel, wire wheel. Or sorry, not a wire wheel, but just a regular cutting wheel. And he'd shape them on the bench grinder. And my dad would cut these blades out by hand. You can see where my dad stuck. And grinded on it. Because we was working on coming up with an idea of polishing the knives. But for some reason, my dad liked this look. Because he was afraid if we polished them up really nice, they would look store-bought. My dad would drill these antlers out, and he would mix JB Weld epoxy and put in there, and then he'd shove the piece down in, and he'd clamp it, let it dry. This is one he done with some kind of varnish he put, because you notice how the bone is shiny. This knife, I have to be careful with it because it is deadly sharp. I mean, it is razor sharp. And that's one of the reasons why there's a piece here, because it accidentally got almost cut in two by this razor sharp knife. But yeah, my dad's no longer with me. He recently passed away, for people that's new to the channel. But my dad's got all kinds of handmade knives. And I'm thinking about doing a series where I show some of my dad's homemade knives. Which my dad has tons of store-bought pocket knives and things. But I figured I'd show you guys my dad made these. Because at one time, everybody was wanting the Rob Zombie Bowie knife. You know, that he kills the truck driver and steals it off of him. And my dad was like, yeah, we can patent that. So my dad come up with this design by looking at that Bowie knife. It's not exact. And I don't think it had a deer handle. I think it was a wooden handle. But my dad kind of patented it out of this. And my dad always liked the shapes of the Buck 120s. How they had this like swoop in at the top or whatever you want to call that. And my dad also sharpened this part too. For some reason, it's razor sharp. But yeah, my dad made this knife, and I've been using it to cut my dog food bags open from when I feed my dad's dog outside. This is probably one of the best ones my dad's done so far. I'll have to pull some of his creations. My dad's even got some creations that he was in the process of working on that he didn't finish. And I thought about going ahead and finishing them, but my dad was always changing his designs. And I'm just going to leave them, the ones that he hasn't finished, as they were. But there it is, guys, a knife that my dad made, and I'm very proud of my dad. My dad loved making knives. That was his dream, to make knives and sell them. And the one knife my dad made, he sold for $300. And this knife here took my dad probably about 4 or 5 hours to make. That's because he stopped and took breaks. But there's good money in this stuff. I thought about taking over and start making them, but I have the slightest idea, really, because I was younger at the time when my dad started making them. But yeah, there it is, guys, the knife that my dad made. He even had the little thing that puts whatever you call these snap things. He had all that. But yeah, there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. A knife that was made by my dad. See you later.